Welcome to Biz Bites, brought to you by Com Together, helping businesses like yours build their brand through telling amazing stories to engage and grow audiences on multiple platforms. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Biz Bites. And I've got Bill with me here today. And aside from the fact that we were reflecting on our probably our unique haircuts and things, which you won't be able to see because you're listening to the podcast, of course. So we can lie about the fact that we've got long flowing locks, right?
Bill's, I wish.
Yeah, so do I. So Bill's joining us today. So like we always like to do on the podcast, I'll get you to introduce yourself, Bill, to the audience.
Okay, sure. So I've been working in corporate training for about 40 years or so, give or take, and coaching for about 20. And I've worked with a wide variety of industries, executives, small business owners, elite athletes. I actually got a chance some years ago to work with the National Australian skydiving team.
Wow.
So they threw us out of an aeroplane at 16,500 feet. In return for what we knew about, mindset, body kinesiology, a whole bunch of different things. So we did 14 jumps in 10 days. One day we did 5 jumps, 3 before lunch, and my adrenal glands had never been so shaken up in all my life. And they were a bunch of crazy guys. Like, I'll just tell you one brief story, and that is they all live on adrenaline. And I think there's something missing from their brain that when they do high activity, scary stuff, it fills in the bit that's missing. I'm not sure of the biochemistry, but I'm pretty sure that's pretty much what happens. So the photographer they go up to 16,500 feet, they jump out, they do formation work, and there would be a photographer who would video what they're doing. Well, he used to get a little bit bored. Now, they all have 2 shoots, a main shoot and the emergency shoot. So he would pack his main shoot to fail, not all the time, just every now and again. He would pack it to fail, so he'd have to use his emergency parachute. And that's the kind of people that we're working with. But they were so much fun to be around, a bit scary to be around because we knew what we were going to do. But I learned so much from them in terms of, working at that level of elite sport. There's certain things that they take for granted that most of us, it would be like, wow, you're doing what inside your head? So I've had the opportunity to learn from a lot of elite people, not only in sport, but also in business as well. So my passion is working with male executives and business owners who have preteen kids, but they are so busy being busy that they don't spend enough time with their children. And there's some golden years, if you like. When a child gets to about 11 or 12, they're off and running. You're no longer the favorite human being because they've got their friends, they've got their boyfriends, their girlfriends, and they're gone. And so if you miss these years, say up until the age of 12, they'll never come back. And I've worked with a lot of men in men's gatherings, and I've heard the pain from both sides, one of being a father and not having access to the kids as they're growing up, but also from men who haven't had access to their dads when they were growing up. And it's, from my point of view and from my training, it's so fixable. It is just so fixable that you can learn time management, energy management. You can become more productive at work and still have time to hang out with your kids, go to the concert, go to the sports events, do all those things so they know that they are important in their parents' lives. And this can be intergenerational. I've seen the effects, the negative effects, but I've also seen the positive effects. So that's the buzz. That's the thing that that I actually get quite emotional about. If you push me, I get quite emotional about, because it's so important for me, for dads and kids, to be connected.
I 100% agree with you. And I know how quickly that time flies. I was only, reflecting recently with someone that it feels like yesterday that I was in that my eldest daughter was 4, and we had an orientation day for the infants primary school she was going to go into in a 2-3 months time, whatever that was. That same daughter is 22 now, and it really it feels like 5 minutes ago, and school and
Yes.
everything else has gone past, and that's the nature of the beast. I'm fortunate that I personally have worked from home for over 12 years now, and so that's been a luxury that I've been able to have, is to be around the kids all the time. But I know that that's not always the case with a lot of people, and that separation from the kids happens at such an early age, and then there isn't that same, as you say, you don't get those opportunities back ever. And so, but before we get into that, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about. I just want to ask you a little bit more about the skydiving and the high performance. But first of all, I have to say it's something I've always thought of doing, but I don't know if I've reached an age where I don't think I can do it anymore.
Go do it.
Jumping out of a plane. I think it'd be kind of cool, but scary at the same time. And I think it's interesting that you're sort of teaching mindset, and it would have taken you a huge mindset switch to be able to do it in the first place. Like I think there would have been I imagine that would have been we've got this opportunity to work with these guys. That's really cool. Wait, they want us to jump out of a plane how many times over how many days? And then there's today's the day we're actually doing it. And then the doors open and you're going, oh, really? We're going to jump? I mean, that whole mindset thing for you must have been a huge thing to have been taken into their world, which is something that we don't often get to do with elite athletes, because it's very hard to be on that playing field to imagine what it's like for them. But you were actually literally there.
Well, the way it happened was I was at a Christmas party, and a friend of mine who had just done a tandem skydive, and he was telling me about it. And I'm going, wow, that sounds fabulous. I'd love to do that, I said. Well, I happened to be on Melbourne radio with my business partner. He was doing kinesiology, and I was teaching people how to learn really quickly. And we're talking about the things that we do. And this is in January. And then we got a phone call from the manager of the Australian national skydiving team, and he'd heard the interview, and he said to us, hey, do you want to come and play with us, and you teach us what you know, and you get to skydive with us? And we're going, yeah, let's do it. And so we went, and it's really weird. So the first, you got to 16,000 feet, and it's noisy as anything up there. It's like a train going through, and when they open up the doors, and it's freezing cold. And there's this little peg, and you have to. So I'm in front of the Sky Master, who's the guy I'm going to be jumping with, the tandem guy. And there's this little peg that you're going to put your feet on before you jump. So I'm gingerly putting my feet on this in case I fell. And then I'm going, I'm going to be jumping anyway. And so, and when you go at that speed for the first time, your brain just cannot process all the information. So there's big chunks of memory that just get deleted because your brain's never had to process going that fast in life. And so when you land, they ask you, so what do you remember? And they're just kind of trying to see how much of your brain is left. So it's interesting. The second jump was scarier than the first, because the first one I had no idea what was going on. The second jump, I knew what was going on. But I have to say, by the end of it, we're just going, yeah, can we do it again? Can we do it again? And one of the things, just coming back to parenting, when my daughter was about 8 or 9, one of the things I wanted to do was to give her some physical outdoor experiences. And so I think the first one at the age of 8, she went on a joyride in an old biplane. So, she's 8, she's got all this gear on, she's in the biplane. And then when she was 14, that was the youngest age in New South Wales, we lived just across the border in Queensland, that she could do a skydive. So she did a tandem skydive at the age of 14, on her 14th birthday. And she was fearless. And I'm just going, I think it's because the guy who was the leading the jump had like a tattoo and a pierced earring or something like that. So he looked pretty cool. And so she went up from 3,000 feet and came down, just going, "Oh, I love this, Dad." Anyway, so that's one of the things that I did. Is that every birthday, I want to give her some physical experience. So we've been rock climbing, we've been jet skiing, we've done all these other things, and it gave her a platform for her to do scary physical things and not back off them if she chose to do it. And so she has. She's done bungee jumping and South Africa. She's done other things that freak her boyfriends out. They don't do it, but she will. So she's got a good sense of physical adventure, which I love. I'm really glad
I was going to say, I can imagine the the conversation with the boyfriend saying, "Oh yeah, look, it started at 14 when I jumped out of a plane." What? That's going to be a scary relationship to go into, but I'm sure she's doing fine. It's really interesting to hear how you've done that. I can only talk from my experience that neither of my kids like physical experiences. I think we tried bike riding and that never happened, so it's collapsed from there. But I think they're just glad when I throw them something and they can catch it. I think that's about as physical as it gets. But they have different expertise. So and I think that's the important thing. So I wanted to delve into all of these things and because you've done a lot of media over a long period of time, and so I want to hear about the stories that you're telling there and the experience of all of that. And I should say, when I was looking at your LinkedIn and saw the 2UE sign, I was a bit of memory flashback there, because that was for listeners will know that I spent a lot of time at 2UE in its heyday when it was a talkback radio station. Of course, it isn't much anymore, but that was my grounding, if you like, working at 2UE and loved all of those days there. But I really just wanted to go back and say, this idea that you've got of really pushing the way that fathers, particularly in the relationships that they have, where does that stem from? Where does it what was the relationship like with your father and because I can't imagine that this was an area that you chose to want to be in when you were at high school or university. So how did just trying to trace back how that all came about?
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. My father died when I was 7 years of age. So my dad wasn't around when I grew up. So I missed that, and I never knew my grandparents. So that was always something that was missing from my life. So when I became a dad, I wanted to make sure that I was going to be present with my daughter. So I've worked from home for years. So, for example, when my daughter was a toddler, and she'd wander around the house and she'd come into the office where I was working, and I'm working on this very important document, this proposal, whatever it might be. And she wants my attention. So she sits on my lap and she wants to chat away. So I've got a choice. I can either pretend to be with my daughter while I'm thinking about this very important proposal that I'm sending off, or I can switch hats in an instant, be her dad and be fully present. Because kids know if you're there or not. You might be there in front of them, but if you're half there. So what would happen with this? I would be fully present with my daughter. I would switch hands in a moment, and I learned how to do that. That's a learnable skill. And so I'll be fully present with her. And 10 minutes, she's done. She's had her, fill of dad time, and now she's off on another adventure. So then I'll switch hands again, my corporate training hat, and then I'll do that. But if I'd been half present, the 10 minutes would have gone to 20 minutes, would have got to half an hour until she got her quota of me. But the thing about that was I didn't want to be a parent who was half there. If I was going to be with my daughter, I wanted to be fully present, because I wanted her to know how important she is to me.
I hope you've been enjoying the conversation so far. We look forward to bringing you part 2 in the next episode of Biz Bites. BizBytes is brought to you by Together for all your marketing needs so you can build your brand, engage audiences on multiple platforms. Go to comtogether.com.au, follow the links to book an appointment for a free consultation.